Have you ever killed someone? And how did that feel?
That's a tough one.
Do you owe your life to anyone? Has anyone saved you?
Yeah, I had, in my early years in Afghanistan, we were dropping off an unsung load up a place called Kajaki Dam, which is right at the top of the Helmand Valley. And there's wires, like the big sort of high voltage wires that you get here in the UK, we call those helicopter killers, because if you fly into a set of those, you're more than likely going to pull the whole aircraft out of the sky. So when we're here in the UK, we do lots of recce's to make sure that we look for them and we see them before we fly any night navigation routes. And we kind of do the same in Afghanistan, but they're not marked on any maps, so you just have to keep an eye out for them. And but this particular set had been put up and we hadn't seen them, so as we dropped an unsung load off at the drop point, we sort of exited from the drop point and flew straight into a huge set of 250-foot high voltage wires. And the whole aircraft jolted, there was a loud bang. And the first thing I remember was seeing the wire spark out at 3 o'clock of the aircraft. I was stood at the front door and the smell of burning electricity just filled the whole aircraft really badly. I looked at my shoulder and the other crewman had nearly gone through the centre hatch with the jolt of the airframe and actually been saved by his harness. And the whole aircraft was wallowing towards the ground, which was like undulating sand dunes. And the pilot was just shouting, I can't see, I can't see. So I thought we were going to crash. I held the front of my harness, which is like 2 webbing straps that fit into a buckle, and thought that we were absolutely going to go crash land and I was going to have to somehow get out of the aircraft. And about 15 feet off the ground, the co-pilot, a guy called Marty, said, I have control, and managed to pull in power and climb us back into the sky. And what had happened, the cockpit had caved in over the handling pilot, so he couldn't see anything. But yeah, that chap that day absolutely saved my life, yeah, without a doubt.
For me, I wouldn't be here today if someone didn't save my life. In fact, there was probably a few guys who, it was my entire squadron who saved my life, really. We were on a special op near the northern border of Afghan, and we were after a high-value target. Once we'd broken through, they had all set up, and yeah, we just walked into a wall of bullets. And there's really nothing we could do about it. I was shot through the neck. Second round hit me on the side of the head, but luckily I was, wearing my Kevlar helmet, so it ricocheted off. The guy behind me was shot through the knee, and yeah, I was dragged out as the firefight ensued by the team coming in behind me, and yeah, they started working on me straight away in the middle of the night in the pitch black. Obviously, they didn't know where I'd been shot, so the first thing they were doing was trying to find the wound, find the entry wound, to stem the bleeding, pack the wound, and then keep me breathing. So yeah, really I owe my life to about 3 or 4 guys on the ground.
My last tour, went on an op. I was snipering, giving overwatch in the green zone, and the op went well. Several targets got taken out. Happy days, innit? And then, as you all know, R4, 5 o'clock in Afghan, pitch black. Beautiful ambient light. From the sorry, no ambient light, but the stars are beautiful. And it came to about 4:30 and we had to finish this op. So they went back, the patrol went back, and we come off the high ground. Got my vehicle, and there were 3 vehicles, and my first call sign stopped. And as a sergeant, you're not meant to lead. Your junior call sign leads, and then you go on from there. And he stopped, and I jumped out of my wagon. I went round with him, jackals, open top vehicles. And I said to him, you know, why aren't we moving? And he said, I've got a bad feeling about this. You know, I'm not a religious man. I believe in fate and gut instinct, you know. And he said, I've got wife and kids at home, Craig. And I went, all right, mate, all right, I'll lead. So I got in my vehicle, and I didn't want to go into the village because there were too many VPs in the village. So vulnerable points. So what I did, I scooted around the village, and I hit a 30-kilo anti-tank mine. I got blown out. The vehicle on the left side. My driver hit the steering wheel and lost his legs. But I couldn't find him, and I was trying to crawl. But as I was crawling, my arms were just collapsing on me, and I could hear people and that boo, that constant buzzing sound. Everything's in slow motion, and I could hear people shouting behind me, "Stay still, stay still, stay still." And I had blood pissing out my head, everything in the nose, ears, and I wanted to find my driver. I couldn't see him. I couldn't see him. And it turned out that I had armoured personnel mines around me. So if I'd have crawled any further, I would have hit an AP mine. They found my driver where the blast had hit the right side of the vehicle, or the sand went on him. So he was like camouflaging his gear plus the sand, and they only found him because of the blood started out of him.
Did he survive?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And I remember the lads just wrapping me up. You know, their skills and drills took over. You know, I wasn't Craig Harrison then. I wasn't Sergeant Harrison. I was a casualty. You know, and they had to think as me as a casualty, not, you know. And they wrapped me up, put me in a stretcher, and took me to the emergency HLS. And then we got under fire, and they started engaging us from the village and from the green zone because it was quite flat. And the chinook came down. As the Merc came down, it touched and went off again because it wouldn't land because it was pinging off the side of the Merc. And we needed it because Cliff was bleeding out, my driver. And it landed again, and that's all I remember. That's all I remember. And I remember waking up in hospital in Bastion, and I looked over and I saw blood on this bed, just pure blood on the bed, and it was where my driver was. And I thought, F it, where is he? Where is he? And first thing I thought, you know, he's dead, you know. And they said, no, he's gone in for emergency surgery, trying to save him.
Have you ever killed someone, and how did that feel?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Me personally, as a sniper, yes, I have. What did it feel like? It felt pretty to begin with. I felt I was in trouble. I was in a situation where I had to, because I was saving other people from this one person, you know, and it had to be done. Had the permission to do it, the green lights. You have to go through all this stigma of green lights and God knows what. And because I've got a precision rifle with a scope, I can PID that target and I know what I'm looking at. Yeah, and you feel like you're in trouble. And I felt for about a week. I thought I was going to get a tap on the shoulder all the time going, can we have a quick word with you? You know, why did you kill this guy? You know, and then I didn't look at them as people after that. I just looked at them as targets, because if you start looking at them as people, you start thinking they are people, and you start, you know, your mind starts overthinking your actions and what you're doing.
I think for me, it was a lot easier, and this was my experience being in the Special Forces, was that compared to being on you know, generic forces on the ground, was we had different rules of engagement, and in some respects it was a lot easier.
It was easier being a sniper as well, because we had ops to go on to take specific targets out, and because you got that scope on that rifle, you can actually PID that, you know, IED
Exactly,
layer,
yeah.
IED maker and stuff like that. You can actually PID it.
And ultimately, that made it, I think it was easier for your conscience.
Yeah.
And I remember the stretchers coming over the ramp, and sorry, I'm gonna get emotional. They were all covered in flags. So there was a Rifles flag on one of the bodies, a Union Jack on one, a Welsh flag on one of them, and each body had a different flag on it. And there's nothing you can say to those guys that's gonna make that better.